Hello, hello, hello everyone. We're in the greenhouse. It is 2021. The season has officially started. And do you know how I know it's officially started? If you don't follow us on the blog, let me introduce you to Seedanuary. Okay, stop. I know just now everybody is either sowing their seeds or getting excited about sowing their seeds, but I'm going to say just stop for a second and watch this video first, because we're going to do a couple of things today that are jobs to do before we sow our seeds, and hopefully it can help you get a higher yield out of your seeds and prevent any issues. So we're going to start it. It's in two parts. First part we're going to do right here in the kitchen, because I don't need to be out in the cold to do this part. The second part we're going to jump into the greenhouse. Okay, so we're going to start. So for getting started then, you need a couple of little bits and bobs, and it is some of these resealable polythene bags, like sandwich bag things. Some kitchen towel, or that's kind of soft absorbent paper type stuff. A pen, trust me, this is very useful. And some water, okay? I've got this wee spray bottle. You don't have to have that, but it's handy. And of course, your seeds. Okay, so the seed packets all have sow-by dates on them, okay? And okay, chances are the seeds will be fine and will still germinate after that date has passed, but they won't last forever. However, what you may find is, as time passes, the seeds will become less and less viable, meaning you'll sow 100 seeds and you'll get 70 will germinate. The next year you might get 60, the next year you might get 50, and it'll go to the point where you have to sow so many seeds that it's just a bit of a waste of time, because you're sowing all those seeds and using up all that soil and stuff. Okay, so we do this test so we can work out if it is worth using these seeds or not. Okay, seed viability test. Now, let's see, I've got all these lovely seeds that I have collected in the garden over time. Ooh, some interesting ones. This is I forget about these. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I have got some seeds here for my lovely sea holly that grows in the front garden, and we love it so much. We've only got one plant, so I collected seeds. Now, because I've collected these from the garden, they've not been bought from a reputable supplier. I don't know if they'll take or not. Did I do anything to damage the seeds? Have I not stored them correctly? So this is a way to check. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write on here what the seeds are and today's date. So sea holly, and today is the 4th of July 21. No, it's not July, it's January 21, 2021. Okay, I've got my bag, everything is written on, so that if things get mixed up, I know what they are from experience. Trust me, guys. Honestly, I tell you this stuff from experience so you don't make the mistakes I do. Okay, the next thing I need then is a bit of kitchen towel. It's just normal kitchen towel. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just dampen that with a bit of water. Not wet, okay, just damp. Because the thing is, seeds need 3 things to sprout. They need, believe it or not, oxygen, they need water, and they need warmth. Now that may shock you, because you'll be thinking, oh, but they need soil and they need light. And actually, some seeds, yes, some seeds do need light to sprout. And the packet will tell you when you sow them to sow them on the surface. So things like petunias, they need the light. But most seeds, you sow into the soil and they don't need any light until they actually sprout. So there you go, there's the first thing. The warmth is the other thing, which is why I'm doing this indoors, because you guys know my greenhouse is unheated unheated and it is quite cold. Hence why I'm in here just now and not out there when I don't have to be. So chances are my seeds won't germinate in the greenhouse, and that won't give me a good example of if they are viable or not, because the environment wasn't right for them. So I'm going to keep these indoors. So that gives me my moisture, it gives me my warmth, obviously oxygen in the environment, and when I put them in the bag, even though I'm going to seal the bag, there will still be oxygen present. So everything, my little seeds need to get them going. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, and again, there are lots of different ways of doing this. I do my testers with lots of tens because I suck at maths. Tens is easy for me to work out percentages and things. So 10 seeds, here we go. These seeds are really fiddly. Okay, and any I'm not using are going to go back into the little envelope. Now, this is a good time to just point out the whole purpose of doing this on the kitchen towel in the bag, testing it all off. This is not a waste, okay? Don't worry about wasting seeds. I'm actually going to use these. If they take, these will be the ones that get planted. And that's why I do things this way, okay? Now, what you'll see is if you're on the internet, you'll see lots of people will now roll up that kitchen towel and then put it away and store it. I'm not going to do that, because if I want to check on these, I'll have to unroll it. And there's a chance of damaging seeds, losing seeds. If they have germinated, there's a chance of damaging those tender little roots and shoots, okay? So I'm going to leave it flat like this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the bag over so the writing is on the bottom. And I'm going to put this kitchen towel with the seeds on it in there, okay? And then I'm just going to press that down so that there's proper contact with the damp tissue. And then seal the bag. Okay? So the benefit of doing it this way is these are now totally visible through the bag. So if I want to check on this, I can just look at the bag, okay? I don't have to worry. Okay? Now, make sure you press them down because you really do want them to be in contact with that tissue. And I've just made the surface damp. Okay, we're going to do another one and I'm going to bring you in close. So same thing again, I've got my bag. And the first thing I'm going to do is write what I'm going to sow. So this time I'm doing muscari. And again, it's the 4th of Jan 21. My seeds, I've got my bag, and I've got a handy piece of kitchen towel. So, same again, I'm going to turn my bag over and I'm going to dampen my kitchen towel. And again, we want nice and damp, not soaking wet. Remember, we can always add a little bit more moisture into these bags if we need to, but you can't take it away once it's in there. Okay? Damp. Again, this is seeds that I've collected from the garden. They are from the planters just outside our patio doors. Oh, I've well sealed this one. It's always that moment of extreme being carefulness. I couldn't think of the word there. So you don't scatter these everywhere. Now you'll see these seeds are slightly different, look. So nice and dark so I can see them easily. I don't need that bit. Okay, so these seeds are round, which means they will roll. So I've put the bit of paper inside the bag already, okay? Because if I try and move that into the bag, they're all going to roll everywhere. And then I'm actually going to place the seeds on that paper. Give them a bit of space. And then the same as before, make sure they're in contact with the damp paper and seal your bag. And there we go. So here we go. You guys know my office. I've brought you guys in here before, but this is also the best place for me to store these because 1, it's warm in here, 2, they're less likely to be disturbed, and 3 is that I've got a nice space here that's warm and dark that I can put them in, but 3.5 is if I'm in here working, you know how nosy I am? It means I can simply pick it up and have a look and say, has anything sprouted yet? So that's my 3.5. So I did a few extra in the greenhouse when I was out prepping for the next bit of this video. So I've got some California Wonder Peppers. I've got my Destiny's Teacher Dahlias. Thank you, Sam, for those. I'm quite excited about those. And I've got the ones we just did there. So I'm just going to leave them here. You will know on your seed packet, it will tell you roughly how long the seeds should take to germinate. So I reckon maybe in a fortnight's time, we should have our results for these. So, excellent. I will definitely give you a shout and let you know how it goes. But basically, how it works is you've sown 10 seeds, and you take the percentage that have germinated. So say 5 out of 10, that's 50%, 6 out of 10, 60%, that kind of thing. Now, do you see why I said it's easier if you're doing 10s? So basically, 50% and above is considered viable and seeds you can use. Obviously, the higher the better, because you need to sow less to get them to get the amount of plants that you want. But that is the thing, if you know how viable they are, you know how many seeds you have to sow. So if you've got, say you want 3 tomato plants and you've got 50% viability, well, you know you need to sow at least 6 seeds because you need half of them to take to give you your 3 plants. So it saves you wasting seeds and time and soil and heat and light and all the other things you might be using. Okay, so that is part 1, and we will come back and we'll check it out and see how they've done. Part 2, I just mentioned soil. So let's go and talk about the soil and getting it ready for sowing seeds as well. So, to the greenhouse. It's cold out there. It's going to take, I think, at least a jacket or something. Okay, we're in the greenhouse. Jacket on because it's a bit chilly. Let me put it this way. The greenhouse has been frozen closed for the last few days, so it's that cold. But soil or compost or potting mix, whatever you want to call it. Basically, what we're going to do now is we're going to do 2 things. Number 1, we're going to make the soil that we use right for the seeds. And number 2, we're going to make it right for us. Okay? Now, what that means is your normal soil from the garden, your soil you buy from the gardening store, that kind of thing, you want to be thinking about what's in it and what it feels like before you use it for sowing seeds, okay? Now, this is why when you go to the garden centre, you'll see lots of different types of soil on offer. And I'm using the word soil just now rather than all the proper terms for things because I want to keep it simple for the guys that have never done this before, okay? I'll go into this in more depth later, but for just now, we're just going to say soil for any of the stuff that you put your plants in, okay? Now, the thing is, I don't ever buy any of the fancy expensive stuff. If I have to buy it, I buy basic compost and then I add whatever it is that I want added to it. So that can be things like vermiculite, perlite, any nutritional qualities, humus, humic acid, all that kind of thing. And again, we're going to do a whole series about our soil and our soil health, and I will go into this for you guys. But at the minute, for just sowing our seeds, we don't need it, because what we want for sowing our seeds is we want it to be as low nutritional value as possible, and we want it to be as fine as possible, okay? So your cheap compost that is as fine as possible and you've sieved will actually do you fine. You don't need to buy special stuff if you have the ability to do this, okay? So that's the first thing I'm going to do then. So I've got my handy garden sieve, okay, because this compost is the stuff that I've bought from the garden centre. It's not the stuff from my bin. I would never use my homemade compost for this because it is really, really rich and nutritious, and it is just too good for sowing seeds, to be perfectly honest. So this is just the cheap stuff from the garden centre that I will now sieve, because as you can see, it's got random lumps and bits of twig and coarse bits and pieces in it, which are great for general gardening because they add volume and air and fluffiness, if you like, which is good. You want that oxygen. But for our seeds, when our seeds germinate, they are so delicate and so small. You don't want to have anything that might stress them out. So we want it to be as fine as possible. So I've got my sieve and I've got a bucket that I'm going to sieve into. Now, The reason I'm putting it in this bucket will become apparent when we get on to stage 2. But for just now, do you know what? I put this jacket on because it's cold. It's not that cold and the sleeves are going to annoy me, so sleeves up and on. I won't last long out here with no jacket on, but I'll do my best. I need a big pot. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. This will do nicely. This is just a shoveling device. Okay. So all I'm doing is just taking out all the kind of lumps and bumps and bits and pieces I don't want. That's all, nothing fancy. And I'm just keeping doing this until I've got as much potting soil as I think I need. Potting soil then. As you can see, we now have super, super, super fine soil, compost, potting soil. Basically what potting soil is super, super fine so that the roots and the stems and things don't get damaged, but also it is very, very, very nutrient lacking because you don't want all of that stuff there. It can damage the little seedlings, the brand new little seedlings, but also it's kind of wasted because as a plant they're not yet big enough and strong enough to take all of that in, and once they get big enough we're going to have to pot them on into a bigger pot anyway, so you don't want any of that stuff. Basically as fine as you can get with as little additives as you can get as well. Now, there is another thing you will see quite often is potting soil tends to be labelled as sterile or sterilised, and that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to show you how to do this yourself. There are a couple of ways on the internet for doing this as well. The way I'm doing it is the easiest, so I'll show you it. But the reason we do this is there's two reasons. Number one, obviously, these little seedlings are all delicate and any fungus that's in there, organisms that are in there that could be nasty, any grubs, larvae, beetles, that kind of thing, could damage your poor little seedlings, so you don't want them. But also, I'm actually going to be potting this stuff on in the house, okay? My big thing for this year, you guys know, I've said before, I intend to get started early in planting up this year, as in I'm going to get started up in the next week or so. To do that, I'm going to actually plant them, well not plant them, but I'm actually going to keep them in the house with heat and light and things in the house. To do that, I don't want to bring any outdoor nasties into the house. You guys know that I had a massive battle with fungus gnats over the summer from soil that had been in here. So I'm just about on top of it. I don't want that starting again. So I'm going to do this so that I can kill any eggs or anything like that that's in the soil, aphids, all that kind of stuff. And the easiest way to do it, there's two ways to do it at home. One, you can simply put your soil in the oven. Bake it for an hour or so in the oven and that will kill everything off, okay? Now, I'm not going to do that because it doesn't half stink when you do it, and Kate would kill me, quite frankly. So instead, I'm going to use boiling water, which is why I just nipped away and got this kettle and got it going. So here's the thing. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to be adding the boiling water to this soil. Not all at once, okay? But I'm going to make sure that that boiling water coats all of the soil, so all of it is getting a good drench of boiling water. So it's just a case of just pretend you're in your kitchen baking cookies. Just giving that a good mix in. I've now got this big bucket of super hot soil. What I want to do now is cover it so that it keeps that heat in for as long as possible, because I want to give it time to just kill everything that could possibly be in there. I just use kitchen foil. Can you believe it's empty? I'll be back in a second. Right, tin foil. And all I'm doing is putting that on top and completely covering the surface. And that is actually us. So it's super fine, and we've got the boiling water on there and giving that a really good mix through. We're going to leave it and let it just cool. It doesn't have to be cold to use it, but we want it to be cool enough to touch and not to damage your seeds, and also because we want to give that time to work. But that is it. Once this is ready, you've now got some beautiful fine potting soil to use for sowing up all your seeds. So we've talked about how to check that your seeds are viable so that you don't waste seeds and time and soil. And we've talked about how to make your soil ready to go. So those two things, you're now good to get started for season 2021. As long as you've actually bought all of your seeds, of course. And that's another good thing. You've done the viability test, so you now know if any of your seeds need replaced, because most of us have box loads of seeds about the house. But if we keep them year after year after year, there's nothing worse. And trust me, because I've been there, there's nothing worse than sowing and getting a year where you don't get any of the plants that you're wanting to. So this way you can avoid it. Okie dokies, folks, that is us for just now. And I suppose next time I see you then, we'll actually get planting up and I'll show you how I'm going to be doing things indoors, because the one thing I want to talk about when we're indoors is light. And that's next time. See you guys.